Okay. Jen, would you take Katie's also?
Thank you so much.
Ellen McGuigan?
Thank you so much.
Deb Nolan? Jessica Phillips? Casey Riley?
Okay.
Gail Sowers? Dawn Vincent? Lori Wagner?
Thank you again.
Sarah Wood? Did I miss anyone? Think I got them all?
Oh, the cupcakes again, whoa. I figured at least 40, but I guess you guys can work it out. Some napkins here. There was also a donation, anonymous donation that was made to Western Wayne. So this is just a little something. Our other co-manager said that they had been donated. So again, very popular school this year. Congratulations on that one. Just some, looks like some crayons, markers, glue, whatever.
Very good, thank you.
Again, there are instructions in the bag with the gift cards, and there's also a little treats for, I guess, all you ladies. We picked pink when we saw the names and we figured out they were all female. And again, thank you all, the teachers. You know how hard it is and how much you give of yourselves. And we, as parents, we appreciate all that you do in all the grades. Again, thank you all.
We thank you for your support. At this time, we have allotted for public recognition. Do we have anyone that would care to address the board at this time? Hearing none, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Hi, that's okay.
Yeah, Dr.
I have
John.
some very good news. We have been contacted by a group called Voter Ed in Pennsylvania, and they're willing to give a free seminar to anyone in our community that would like to find out more about how to have Harrisburg provide equal financing for all of our school districts, something that's near and dear to all of our hearts, especially since we're running behind so far with the state budget. So we have information. I've provided the information for several people. I want to provide a copy for everyone on the board. It's open to all the community, all the members of the board, and it's free, and they're coming to us. We don't have to travel to them, which is wonderful. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to take advantage of, and I'll be providing it. I have just a single copy here.
Could I ask you to give that to Mr. Seaman over here, and we'll ask him to review it with
Sure.
Mr. Adams tomorrow, and maybe
Sure.
we can find some way to publish it along with our other information.
Wonderful. That
Okay.
would be wonderful. I did have a question. Because we have such an unexpectedly, well, maybe not unexpectedly, unusually large crowd tonight, is there a way for the community to get copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting?
They go up on the website, as you know, after they're approved. So once
Okay,
they're
so
approved,
it's
they
going to
become
be
public
a
document.
little while before we'll have those, or it would be soon,
soon?
or?
All right, oh, the agenda itself. Yeah, we won't have the minutes, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
the
that'll
agenda
be
can go up.
soon, it'll be available?
Yeah, tomorrow.
Okay, because I use it when I do the
Yep.
tapes. And just another little, because of information being so important for Western Wayne, tonight's meeting will be on YouTube, and the other meetings from other past times will also be on YouTube again, as previously noted, so
Very good, thank you.
you're welcome.
Were there any others that I didn't see? Hearing none, the enrollment report is provided for your information. We'll move to item 15. Do we have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education accept the resignation of employee Lorraine Troiano effective October 1st, 2015.
I'll second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstaining? The ayes have it unanimously. Item 16, do we have a motion?
I recommend the Board of Education approve the tentative collective bargaining agreement with the Western Wayne Education Support Professionals Association for 2013 through 2020, subject to approval by the district's council of the language of the agreement. And upon such approval, that the board president and secretary be authorized and directed to sign the agreement on behalf of the district.
I'll second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. I think before we go to questions or comments, I'd like Mr. Adams just to highlight some of the key features of the agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Hollister. This contract is 2 years and 4 months in arrears. The board, committee, and the administration over the last 34 months has met face-to-face with the association members 33 times. This culminated last week with a proposed settlement, and that proposed settlement is retroactive all 7 years, 2.95% raise for members of the bargaining unit, which are the cafeteria employees and the custodial employees. It has the same health care concessions that were made in the teacher's contract agreement, which we spent a lot of time last meeting discussing, and there was a PowerPoint presentation with quite a bit of information. I think there were 20 slides, so we're not going to do that again for this evening. The bottom line regarding this contract has wages and associated expenses for PSERS, Pennsylvania State Employee Retirement System, Social Security, and Workman's Comp, costing $215,000 over the 7-year period. And the health care concessions and the 2 positions that were eliminated a few years ago and not replaced, that sum total of health care and position looks like cost reductions for the future of $287,000. So we're about $62,000 of concessions above and beyond what the cost of the contract is. It was agreed to by the association this Saturday. It was a very long process, and I appreciate the concessions that have been made, but and on behalf of the taxpayers and the board, from a financial standpoint, and also thank the association for their patience in waiting, 33 months to have a resolution to the contract. And as you recall from the last meeting, if you weren't here, the financial ship of the school district over the last 18 months has greatly improved, and the district is very much able to afford this. Actually, obviously, it costs us less money for the contract than it did in the past, so it's a cost reduction coming. But I just also want to thank the staff for continuing to do the work over a 33-month period without a contract, being patient, not striking, not having work stoppages or anything else to disrupt the services that are given to the school district by the custodians and cafeteria. And I'm very proud to say that it's a fair and reasonable deal for all the taxpayers, the staff, and the individuals, as well as the school district. So I want to thank the association and its leadership and members, and those are the things that are part of this agreement for the next 5 years. It will extend all the way out to 2020, as does the teacher's contract.
Are there any questions or comments from the board?
As a member of that committee, I wanted to thank the association. They were a great bunch to work with.
And I want to thank you as a committee also, yourself, Mr. Lindo, Mr. McDonough. Thank you for the work that you put into it to bring this through, so thank you. There being no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstaining? The ayes have it unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. Adam Lanza is president of your, I'm sorry, union?
Yes,
Title-
Western Wayne
Association.
Educational Support
You have some
Professionals.
comments?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. The Western Wayne Educational Support wishes to thank the school board, Joe Adams, Superintendent, Rose Emmett, Business Manager, for this agreement. We, the custodians and food service employees, both work and live in this district. We do understand when the community says we need our school to be clean, maintained, and that our children to be fed healthy. Members take pride working for the school district, and we feel that this is fair to the citizens of this community. The Western Wayne ESP, thanks once again for your support.
Thank you. Item 17, do we have a motion?
I recommend that the Board of Education authorize Superintendent Joseph W. Adams the option to begin the process of obtaining a line of credit for borrowing in the event that the state budget is not passed by December 2015.
I'll second the motion.
The motion has been made and seconded. Are there any questions or comments?
So this is, so this is tentatively gonna do the legwork currently right now.
Preliminary legwork, because it does take about 30 days to put things in process. And like we would do with everything with the school district, we want to deal with the local community taxpayers, the banks who are in the community, and propose to them, in case there is not a state budget, which we all are hoping that there will be, but we've been hoping for an awful long time. And we need to be prepared when our cash flow requires us to continue to operate, to pay the bills and make the payroll, when in our case, we're anticipating that we'll be running out of money in about January. It might be a little bit later, but we want to be prepared in case we have to be able to borrow to continue to operate, and obviously the other choice is to decide to close and not operate and not spend the money. But this is strictly preliminary to do all the legwork behind the scenes, which takes about 30 days to get the banks and have a line of credit available in case we do need to enact it in order to stay open. It's a sorry state for the state of Pennsylvania, for all public school districts and a lot of other nonprofits and agencies that we're without a state budget. It's the longest period that I can remember. There were some times in the last two governors ago, but it was nowhere near like this, and it looks like we're nowhere close. There were some multiple votes and then a veto attempted to be overridden, which didn't pass. So bottom line is we're being held hostage, and fortunately financially we're in much better shape than we were in the past, but we just want to be prepared just in case we need to borrow to stay open, or at least have the option to borrow to stay open. And obviously, if we get to that point, the board will have to make that decision of what our next step is once our cash flow runs out. Again, hopefully we don't get there, but I want to be prepared in case we do. So that's the reason for this.
Well, a follow-up question. Even if there is a budget, we had talked, you and I, about the fact that there's a window of 60 days for release of PDE funds. So there's a real possibility that we might have to borrow anyway to get us afloat until we would receive that, hypothetically speaking, if they get off their rear ends in Harrisburg and actually pass a common sense budget. So even if the budget occurs, it doesn't mean we're going to get the money in a timely fashion. So this borrowing might occur either which way, which is important for everyone to understand in the entire community, that although there might be a budget, the release of the PDE funds is not instantaneous and is not going to be directly deposited into our account overnight. So,
That's a very good point. And unless they do some type of emergency, we're going to give you half of what we know you're owed, and then do all the reconciliations, because the reconciliations will take 45 to 60 days. And then the funding mechanism follows that, so you're right.
just for public record, we still have not, correct me if I'm wrong, received Title I funding either from the federal government.
Anything
It
that
hasn't- has not been released, correct?
Correct.
Anything that passes through the state. We haven't been funded for some of the 14, 15 educational things that were supposed to be reconciled for June 30th, the big one being the transportation. So not only aren't we funded for this current school year, we're missing funding from last school year as well.
And I think it's important to note, though, that it's not the federal government that is keeping us from having this money. It is the state of Pennsylvania that is literally handcuffing us
Correct.
from being able to have this money. That the children who need it most desperately cannot get that money.
Correct.
It's a complete disservice to the entire communities inside of Pennsylvania. So it's truly disgusting, to be honest with you. So I just wanted to clarify that so the public knows where we are in this entire quagmire that looks like we are not going to have a solution in the near future, in the next 60 to 90 days.
And there are some people, rightfully so, pushing very hard for any costs that are associated to the school district out of the borrowing be reimbursed by the state. That would again take the state accepting that responsibility. Not only don't we have a budget, but if it costs us more, and we don't have the monies that are due to us, but if it costs us more to get it, it's an additional disservice. So, and it's very disruptive, and again, fortunately for us, we're in a financial position that we've, back to where we were from 2.5 years ago. If we were not, we'd be out of money now. So, you know, it's one of the reasons that a school district has to have a financial plan and be in a position to have a fund balance to be able to withstand some of the things that can come our way. And this is one that is completely blindsiding for 110 or 112 days, whatever the number is, and we know that it's going to be, you know, many, many days going forward. So hopefully it's done, but I quite honestly don't have a lot of faith based on some of the things that are coming out of Harrisburg. That it certainly appears to be no closer now than it was 3 months ago, and we're all being held hostage to that. And it is damaging, and to the point where some school districts in our area have already started to borrow. Fortunately, we're not there yet, but you know, 60 days from now, we certainly will be. So it's not a good situation for all public schools and other entities that rely on the state's good faith of doing business and paying on time. And you know, but we do need to be prepared to, and that's what this allows us to do, is to give us the option to be prepared in case we run out of money. And it's unfortunate, but we want to be preemptive and know that we can still operate and give the board the opportunity to still operate if we don't receive the funding, you know, in January.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Al, I have something to say. Basically, do not trust the state legislators or anybody in Harrisburg. Act 1 was enacted to give us reduced property taxes several years ago, I think 205, in regards to gambling revenue. And they take that money, and they're not obligated by law to keep it to education as it should be. They take our money and they give it to all their pet projects. It's walking around money in another sense, but that money was promised by a lot of those same legislators to reduce our property taxes and help us get over the hump with burdening taxpayers, along with providing a proper education for our children. And I have one more question, Kelly, with the Wayne Independent. If you can help me out, I'd like to know where Mrs. Baker and Mr. Piper, who are our representatives, along with Sandy Majors, who's our new state rep, because I don't know what they're all about and what they want to do for education in the state of Pennsylvania. We're not hearing from those people. And it would be nice to somebody pick up the paper, pick up the phone, call these people and ask them, what do they want to do about public education? How would they like to fund it so that we can get out of this predicament? Because I never heard from the other side. I'm hearing what Governor Wolf has to offer, and I agree with some of his ideas. But the fact is, if you can help us by finding out what these other three people who represent the Western Wayne School District want to do to provide the proper funding for public education, importantly, Western Wayne School District will use the funding. I'd appreciate it if you could help us out with that. I'd really be interested. Thank you.
One of the things, piggybacking on your comment
Yes.
about Act One, the gambling revenue, they're gonna withhold half of that and send it as cyber school payments.
Yeah.
Which, you know, quite honestly, are very politically connected individuals from southwestern Pennsylvania. And so they're going to get paid while the school district is not. And it's very, very disheartening. And there's a class action suit to stop that, but we don't have the control of that. Those funds would come directly from the gaming monies. They're now going to be withheld, and if the current legislation that's on the board passes, that money won't come to us. It will be automatically withheld and then sent to the cyber charter schools to pay the tuition for people who are cyber charter schooling their children who are Western Wayne residents. It's just, you know, if we have to wait, why doesn't the charter
And
school
you and I
have
have
to
talked
wait?
about that, and actually charter schools are getting money, I believe, from the gambling revenue.
That's exactly it, from that.
And what about us? I mean, public education is what this country is based on. And yet we're giving money from our tax dollars to open up charter schools and cyber schools while we have all of our public education suffering from a lack of funding. And if you can't take care of us, how can you go out and open up other schools? I don't have any problem with the other schools, but fund us where we need to be funded to provide the proper education for our children without running to the taxpayers constantly to make us do it. And in borrowing money, I'm for it, but I'm not for it. I have mixed emotions because they like us to be going after our local people for it. You know what I mean? Who knows what they're gonna do next? How long is this gonna last? I knew last summer we talked about it, and that it was gonna go on for a long time. We all felt that way. And it's a dysfunctional bunch of people down in Harrisburg. They could be nice people, but as far as a government, it's totally dysfunctional, and it needs to be changed. And the only ones that can change that is us ourselves, because we become friends with our local representatives. But when they're not doing the job for us, we need to make a change. And term limits is the answer, but they have control of term limits. They're not gonna vote for term limits. And we have a legislation that is twice the size of any other state. And what do? They bicker and fight all day long, and nothing gets done. So, but anyway, we need funding for public education, and we need it now. And we're doing a good job with our public education system, a very good job. Kids are going out, they're being doctors and lawyers coming out of here as they are at Scranton Prep or any other school district in the state. And that's something to be really proud of, because we're getting the job done. So, but anyway, think about that. Think about when we vote that our friends really, they didn't work for our children and our property taxes. And let's make a change, or make them do their job, or say, hey, you know, if you can't do your job, it's time to elect somebody else to the position. Because it's too long. They get there so long, they become politically motivated amongst themselves. They call you for a vote, and then you don't hear from them again for 2 or 4 more years before you see them around again. Make them do their job, please. You know what I mean? Make a phone call and say, hey, what are you going to do for us? That's why I'm asking you, Kelly, if you can get a press release from the 3 of them, and then maybe talk to Joe and the board director that would like to speak to you on behalf of Western Wayne School District. I'd appreciate it, and thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstaining? The ayes have